The video window, yeah. But you can't do it until it starts. Unless you can.
I can.
In which case,
I
do
just
it.
did.
Awesome. Great. I say start broadcasting. It'll take a minute or so to click in.
So I need to go back to, this one I don't really need to do other than just see how we look on screen.
I see.
Oh, there it goes. We're appearing there. And here's some notes to start with.
And you got the projects in the different tabs, so we can.
Yeah, I
talk
mean,
to that.
I might need to go back to some of them.
But that'd be great to share your screen.
I should get all these. This
Wait,
one I don't
In
think
order.
I need
Okay.
because I have both parts of that one up already.
Mm-hmm. We were just saying how much we enjoyed Damien's video.
This one?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a good personality.
That's the web-based. That's that. Here's Carton Ed. There's Mindful.
By the way, you guys can be heard by all.
Okay, we're just getting everybody up and ready here. In our final minute before we officially live broadcast.
Very exciting.
All right, I think everything's up here.
All right, we're live.
It's only 9:59.
And
So
on time.
Now we're just supposed to have banter for a couple minutes before
Before everybody gets here.
Before everybody gets here.
Well,
You're in the right place if you're here for the 11132X live event. We will be going over some of the projects we've seen as well as a few other course notes as we bring this course to a close pretty soon. And Rachel and I will be talking about the projects and also responding to any feedback that we get in the live chat within the YouTube event. But it is just 10 o'clock on the dot now, so we'll give people a couple minutes to appear here. As I've said before, in MIT, we start our classes at like 5 minutes after the hour. So, so in the MIT tradition, we'll come close to that.
sounds good. We definitely have people
Yep.
lining up, which is great.
You may not know this in the audience, but the people here do that. Normally what happens is in these minutes before I do weekly updates, and in the weekly updates, we have to do an audio test, and during that time, I usually just say what I ate for breakfast. So I could do that, but I won't.
You always have something interesting though for
Nah,
breakfast.
it's been pretty standard now for a while. All right, I had a smoothie. Homemade smoothie, frozen fruit, yogurt,
Delicious.
some granola. It's good.
Nice. Much better than mine.
What was yours?
Peanut butter.
Just straight up peanut butter?
Peanut butter on toast.
Peanut butter on
Yes.
toast, okay. I've been a peanut butter and jelly for breakfast person for a number of years.
It's good. Simple.
It was,
Gets you out the door.
It was like my standard lunch for like 12 years
Oh,
of
wow.
schooling when I was in elementary, middle, and high school.
It's when you can't think about anything else. You know,
Yeah,
and
it's
you
when my
just-
parents
yeah.
didn't have anything else in the house. But I've recovered from that. And it's once again a favorite.
Broadening your palate now.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
It's good to be.
New kinds of peanut butter.
Oh, I'm
Someone
a
was
Teddy
telling-
fan.
Yeah, someone was talking about that. Were you there when they were talking about it the other day?
No.
No, they were talking about that in the lab, that this is like,
The
this is
Teddy.
a brand I have to try.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right out of Everett.
Out of
Everett,
Everett.
Mass.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We were talking about locally produced foods.
hmm
And so fluff came up.
Yep.
Some of the local candies from
Oh, Necco.
Necco,
Yeah,
thank you. And then Teddy's peanut butter
Yeah,
came up
yeah.
as well. This is not a food show, in case you were wondering. We're just filling in a couple minutes while we wait for everybody to arrive here, and we see the numbers clicking up. So we want to make sure that everybody who meant to be here can be here. This is the 11132X live event, and we'll be starting in just a minute or two.
It's great that everyone's kind of saying where they're calling from, and which is nice. You know, we got people from New York, from Brazil. Great. Glad everyone could join us.
Somewhere in here, I can see that same tab. Oh, Lorenzo says he can banter with us too. What'd you have for breakfast, Lorenzo? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Nice, thank you. Oh, we have several countries represented. Club sandwich and a glass of milk. I'll share one last breakfast tidbit before we get started, which was there was an article that my son saw this past week about breakfast around the world, and how there's different sort of cultural traditions in different places, and some of them seem like, boy, I'd really like to live there, and otherwise I'd be like, that would take some time to get used to eating that breakfast. But country to country, breakfasts vary quite a bit, and we see here that other people are having different breakfasts. Thank you for contributing. All right, so I think we should get started here. Okay. So thank you for joining us for this 11132X live event, where we sort of come to the close relatively shortly with this course. I'm joined here by Rachel, who's been behind the scenes on much of what you've seen. She's been behind the scenes on the weekly updates. She's been behind the scenes in the forums. So she'll be joining me today for the sort of commentary on the people who submitted their final pitches. But a few notes as we draw to a close. The course itself ends, and there's what ends means is in edX terms. So I'll explain. But the course ends officially on April 27th, which is coming up in a few days. Completion checklists, that means, are due on April 27th, which means that if you want a certificate, if you've signed up for that option, then you need to make sure that your checklists are done by then. The certificates themselves will be generated somewhere around May 5th if you've met all the requirements and you've signed up for that option again. The course content will be archived. That means it stays on edX, so you can actually see the course content. And for some amount of time, I'll let you continue participating in the forums. We do shut those down eventually. We've shut them down in some of the old courses already. And we do shut those down eventually. So the forums themselves will close up at some point. We usually leave those open at least for another month or two, so that you should be able to get access to your stuff. But if you have stuff in there that you contributed that you want to archive, we recommend doing that sometime within the next month or so. And we do really like it when you fill out the course surveys. That really helps us. So please do that in time. It helps us improve our courses and better understand what your needs are, what we can do better for next time. And on that note, this is the last of the EdTech X series. We will be closing down this series after this course. We've run all the courses 2 or 3 times now. We're hoping to reboot with a new set of courses in a similar sort of theme of educational technology and games. And the details, I'm sure we'll let you know when we know about those, which we're hoping to know soon. So with that, I'll say welcome to all of you into the course. I'll be juggling a lot of papers and tabs here, so excuse me as I do that, and fumble around with some of the controls as well. But we've had a lot of submissions for pitches, and we really appreciate them. We're glad that everybody was able to submit these, and unfortunately we can only get to about 4 of them, I think, in the amount of time that we have. But we will do those, and we certainly welcome other people to give feedback on the other ones as we move forward. So with that, I will start. I will open a tab here, and then I think we'll be sharing that tab with you. Let's see here.
Yep.
This one must be this one. Okay, so we are sharing my screen here. So the first pitch, as you'll see here, is from Alexis Wren, and this is about Notes Pro, which is a web-based note-taking app. we'll bring you over to the video in just a second. I think one of the interesting things about this particular pitch is that it's one that is sort of reflective on the course itself. So Alexis, I think, said this was her first MOOC,
MOOC, yeah.
and learned a lot about what was missing in sort of the replication of some of the experiences that learners have in offline environments. And so this web-based note-taking app was a response to that.
Right, and that was one of the first things that I just really loved about this proposal, was using your own frustrations and coming up with a solution for that. And Alexis, when you have a chance, and I encourage everyone to check out her pitch, she really goes into detail about how the app can work, and how it can be beneficial in terms of organizing all these different notes on an online course and keeping it in one easily accessible place.
Yeah, and so in fact, I'm gonna scrub through here a little bit, because this is a really impressive pitch here. I think just the still frame will do.
Yeah, and she even has a working app that we can see. You know,
I think it's a prototype, and in fact, I think this is a testament to some creativity here. And Alexis, I don't know if you're on, but if you are, please let us know. My intuition was that these were mock-ups, but it was meant to look and feel like it was an actual prototype. And it really, I will turn down my volume here, and try to just play a little bit of this. As you can see here, it's something that really looks and feels like it's a real app. I think it's just a series of screenshots that were made together. And the idea here is that this is supposed to be some sort of, I'm showing with my hand here, but actually she's showing with her cursor there, that this is some sort of website that's inside of a MOOC. And the idea here is that you have stuff that you want to comment on, you have stuff you want to reflect on, you want to be able to put together different kinds of notes and feedback on the live materials there, whether that be text or video or whatever it is. And the idea here is that this helps note taking right in the MOOC course itself. So my first reaction was, well, what's better about this than something like Evernote, which I use a lot for taking my notes everywhere. But then as I saw this demo here, again, even though I think this is just a sort of a mock-up, it really gave me a good sense of how this was going to work. Okay, this was really integrated into the site, that you were sort of putting your notes here. This is like talking about sort of high level. The idea here is that the popcorn box, the popcorn, and the salt shaker are sort of like getting down to different levels of granularity in what you're thinking about in an outline, and that the structure of this also helps the outline, and it integrates it right with the text, so you can even highlight things in the text itself. It shared a little bit, so there's some things that it shared sort of in common with some other things I've seen. So obviously there are some things with Evernote that I did see in common here. It shared some stuff. There's a colleague here at MIT who's created something called Note Bene, NB, and the idea is it's collaborative note taking for courses. So in some courses, when you have a shared PDF document or something like that you might have, you can have different people sort of highlight and comment on that document, and they can share those things. So it shared a little bit with that, in the fact that it's sort of embedded right in the document, like this is here. So
is that an MIT based?
It's open source, so other people can get access to it. It requires installation and a server and everything, but they can see it if you look up NB. I think it's David Karger is the person who's created that here, and has been used in several classes at MIT. But the other fact was, and this is what she's showing here right now, is that it would actually analyze some of the outlines as you did them. So this is the start where it really starts to come up as a learning tool as opposed to just a note-taking tool. It started to give people feedback in terms of how their notes compared to other people's notes. Maybe they had too many high-level things and not enough low-level things, or vice versa. The fact that it actually was starting to give people feedback on what kind of notes they should be taking, how they should be taking those notes, seemed like a really great addition.
Absolutely. The only other thing I'd add too, when you were mentioning the other applications, is that this proposal also just reminded me of Quizlet in a way, in terms of the founder of Quizlet was a
Yep.
who was using his own frustrations and needs with learning French, and he comes up with this web application that is now used by millions of people to help them learn. And this proposal from Alexis, the same way, using a very personal motivation and then broadening it and giving it a nice universal pitch that can help other learners.
And in fact, the creator of Quizlet was an MIT student for some time.
Yeah.
took one of my classes before he left and his business.
Oh, wow.
He took my class after he created Quizlet, so I have no credit at all for
that's
that.
Interesting. That's so interesting.
But he comes back still, and yes. But the idea is that sort of a great place to think about the kinds of things that you might invent and create are things that are sort of coming from your own experience and the experience of your peers as well. Oops, that's yours. I don't want to steal your notes.
That's okay.
I will say that. So for that matter, thinking about NB with respect to this product, there could be interesting collaborative things that could come out of this as well. So if you could share your notes with other people, you could sort of develop collaborative outlines. I think one of the really important points that Alexis makes here is that it's not just about having the notes; it's about taking the notes. So there's a really important part of that as a process. And so you wouldn't want to just have something where you could just take everybody else's notes.
Right.
But there might be some interesting things that you could do that were collaborative, where you might be able to share and contrast and compare some of the things that you might have to be able to benefit from that.
Yeah, really, really great pitch.
All right. So moving on now to the next one. So the next one is Cartoned or Cartoned. I'm not sure how to.
Cartoned, yeah.
Cartoned.
And can people still see your screen?
Oh no, I'll share in a second. I'm just gonna open this extra tab here because I don't have the document. Oops, I do have the document. I didn't have the video. All right. I don't miss that there. All right, I'm gonna share my screen again so you can see Cartoned. All right, so this is Cartoned from Damien Brunn, also known as Mako Wildcat.
Nice.
So there's a document here that I can go over. So as he describes it, build an experiment with a do-it-yourself smart eyewear to engage in science. And that's a lot in a title there, but I think it's actually a fairly good description of what he actually does here.
Yeah.
This is an interesting sort of extension. If you've seen sort of Google Cardboard, where you sort of put your smartphone into a piece of cardboard and it turns it into a stereoscopic view. With the right app, this is sort of an extension of that, but sort of really focusing on the do-it-yourself nature of it. It's very constructionist in the way that he thinks about this. And it relates directly to science in the way that the thing is built, the way that it's using reflecting and bending light in the product itself. Whoops, that's not what I want to show. Here we go. So this is, you'll see. I will say that Damien certainly had a flair for the dramatic here, which was much appreciated. We like to see that, and it's just a different way of presenting, and I really like to see this for different ways. The last one was a screencast because it was very much sort of screen based, and being able to show the kinds of screenshots was really important in that one. This one is definitely about sort of like understanding why this is an interesting thing, and it's not just a product, it's a process. And so it's important to be able to sort of talk through and explain what the process was. So there's an app, and there's a device that goes with this thing. Yeah,
I really enjoyed Damon's video too. I mean, he really personalizes it. It just makes it much more engaging, and that's what you always want to do with your video pitches.
Yeah, I will actually. There's another. Oh shoot! He actually has a whole website that's associated with this. Is that linked to from somewhere in here?
If we go back to the forum.
Here, official website. So there is an official website for this do-it-yourself augmented reality tool. with more videos. There's instructables. There's stuff for an app.
Right, and clearly Damon's been working on this longer, I would assume, than the duration of this course.
Yeah, and so I'll say two things about that. So one is sometimes other people might see this and go like, I'm never going to get that far with my product. But in fact, there's one of the things I like about this course is that we get people in various stages of their product development, various stages in their own learning. So some people have developed products before. Some people have already started developing a product. Other people are brand new to this. It's the first time they've ever thought about doing something like this. Maybe they've used educational technology, but they haven't created anything themselves yet. And I really like that we get that diverse set of folks in here. That you can learn from each other, see things that you aspire to, see things ways that you might not want to do things, and sort of form your own path that way as well. So don't necessarily think that you need to have something that's this far along. Right. It's great that we have some of them like this, and it's a great thing to learn from, and that's why we're highlighting it here. Right. So I will say that. So getting back to this idea that it's as much of a maybe I can show them back in the video here. Where's that? Here we go. It's as much about the process of doing this. He very much talks about the constructionist nature of learning, and the fact that we want to make sure that this is not just a thing that you buy in a store and then use, but the fact that you're learning actually about the science by actually making this thing. Yeah. And that's it's a little bit different in some ways, I think, than something like a Google Cardboard, because even though it functions differently as well, but even in terms of the thought behind the process, the purpose of the tool is to learn from making this thing. Yeah, but this did seem, you can modify it, you can play with it how you'd like to play with it to make it more effective for you. So that was great. I think Cart and Ed will. I'm sure it's already been very successful in Damon's classroom, but I could just see it being used and adopted by more teachers. Yep. And really nice here. I mean, so there's in the document itself, it talks about the models and theories that it's built on, the impact, risks, the story behind it, some kinds of assessments. The way the app works, really just sort of nice overview of the way that this is very, very well supported. This is why this should exist, what role it serves in the classroom, and how it will exist. And I will say that the app itself, the technology part of it is fairly light, which is great. A lot of it is about the interface between the hardware, this cardboard, and the phone itself, and the way it sort of supports that process. So, cutting, folding, gluing, those are technologies that are certainly involved here, and that's great to see that mixture of technologies. Yeah, really well done. All right, with that I will stop you there, Damien. All right, the next one is one we've mentioned. In an update. Previously. It's called Mindful. Again, another thing I like here is that each of these the video pitches that came out of these was quite a bit different as well. I think I'm still sharing my screen here. So sharing my screen here, you should sort of see the Mindful one. And this is I think in this one there's mostly it's like stock photos and things like that. That have been used to sort of create animations and illustrate ideas. And so a different way of presenting an idea and making a statement, which I really like to see that, the sort of clever ways that people have thought about doing that. And then we also will see the character that Maya has also created for this technology. It comes up around 57 seconds. 57 seconds? Yeah. Oh, there she is. Yeah. And there's the mime. There's the mime. That will lead students through examples of yoga and meditation to create more of a healthier mindset, which will promote better learning outcomes. Yeah, and I really like this one. There's a lot of discussion in terms of the role that mindfulness can play in one's own learning and sort of well-being. More generally, sort of we think about a lot of the non-cognitive skills that people need to have about how they persist and sort of just the ways you can sort of self-regulate.
Right.
And certainly mindfulness is very relevant to that. We've seen so there's basis in some of the popular culture and popular press around these ideas. But yeah, I've seen a couple other apps that are sort of promoting this same idea, but not specifically with this target audience. And I think that's an important thing to think about is not just how do you do this in general, but how do you do this for a particular audience, and what are the specific needs of that audience. And so this one is for elementary school students, and I think the explanation and the grounding is really in what might work for that particular audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one other, this past week, one of our research scientists in our teaching systems lab had forwarded an article to all of us, and it was basically about how high school students and promoting more happiness and how that is so crucial to their learning. And I, of course, thought of Maya's proposal. It was just right in line with this article that one of our scientists were sending around to all of us. And she really hits upon a new understanding of learning that I hope can be adopted more.
Yeah, I think as we learn more about the way people learn, sort of thinking about other educational technologies that support all these other kinds of non-cognitive skills are going to be really important to think about, and I think in some ways more challenging to think about how we do them. So it's great to sort of see something certainly moving in that direction.
Yeah. Again, really well done. Enjoyed that. So we have our last one.
We have our last one, and I will switch over to that one here.
And this one we also mentioned in a weekly update. And so
yes. Oh. Sorry.
So it was good to see how this proposal is progressing. It's always really nice to see as the course moves on, that the more time that people are able to put in and really flesh out what they're thinking about proposing.
So, so this one, I'm going to also get up the video here. Again, I get another presentation type. I'm going to switch first to the document here. So this is a submission by Shah edX. That one I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing right, and I think Shah might actually be online as well right now. So this is in response to the fake news epidemic, and this is certainly something that's a part of popular culture. I think in the last, probably over the weekend, I saw at least 3 articles sort of in newspapers on the front page or on the editorial page sort of targeting these ideas.
Oh yeah.
You pointed out the one from the Washington Post on can democracy survive the internet? I saw one in the Boston Globe. Front page story about really the idea behind social media was highlighting Mark Zuckerberg in particularly, but it was highlighting social media more generally. Like the idea was this was meant to be a way to sort of give people ways of connecting and sharing ideas and really opening up communication.
Right.
And instead, what's happened is it's really closed down communication in some ways. Some of it is we've isolated ourselves into communities, and that promotes some of these ideas around fake news because you sort of are in the echo chamber. For those of you in the United States, certainly that is a phrase that we hear a lot here. That the fact that we just hear the people who are sort of reinforcing our own opinions, and that sort of proliferates, makes fake news able to proliferate. So certainly a current and relevant topic.
Very current and very, very challenging.
And so the idea is to create a forum where journalists can go and discuss news stories. The idea being this is targeting millennials. So as sort of big participants in social media, as well as that's a demographic that primarily gets their news from social media. So the idea here is to be able to have those people interact directly with journalists so that they can sort of be able to filter through what they need in terms of understanding what's real news and what's fake news.
Right, right.
I'll bring up this video here. I'm still screen sharing here. So this was yet another one done in yet another way. So this one was actually done in Spark. I was glad to see one of those videos in here, which allows you to sort of combine text and images in presentations. And so this is and you can see here that there's citations and links. Sort of presented in sort of a little bit of an artistic style here. So again, I like to sort of see the different styles of presentation. So the one thing I will say about this one, and I'll sort of say this in a more general way, which is that it's important to sort of be able to distinguish what you're doing from other things that might be existing in the same or similar spaces. So previously I referred to the note-taking app, and my first assumption was, hey, this is a lot like Evernote, and why not just use Evernote? And then as I saw the video, I was able to understand how this is different from Evernote, and but it might have actually helped. And you'll see, product pitches on a lot of the sort of startup websites. They'll say like, you may have seen other things like this, but it's not, and here's how my thing is different. Yeah. Sometimes it's really important to actually explicitly say, this is how my thing is different. Now, sometimes that can sort of get you into trouble by sort of like, well, the difference, you're splitting hairs there. But if you really think that it's a significant difference, it's useful to sort of call up some of those canonical examples and say like, hey, I know other things are starting up in this space. I know there's other things that are established in this space. Here, how my thing is different. Here, why my thing is important in some fundamental way. Right. And this one, so I think there's a little bit of a risk here that this might, since it is a hot topic, there are other places that this is sort of going on. It would be important to be able to distinguish how this was unique from other things that might be offered there. And certainly that may well be the case. But it's important to be able to sort of call out those distinguishing factors. Right, right.
And compare it to similar products, and also, like Eric was mentioning, identify how this product can address some of the risks involved. And some of the things I was thinking on when I see online forums is there's so much anonymous content. Yep. There's so much trolling. Like, how would this product address that? How can that cut through and not create more fake news?
Yep, you want to directly map the sort of product to the outcomes. Right. That's another way to distinguish. Like, here, this is an important feature that I'm going to have, and this is how it's going to result in sort of combating some of these very specific problems. Right. Good. So I'm going to turn it back to our faces here, and also bring up our comment window. Whoa. I'm assuming we weren't actually talking that fast.
I don't think so.
Must have cached all that. We're actually seeing, if you can see our screen now, it seems to have cached everything from the beginning of the course until now.
Speeding it.
Playing it at like 10x speed. Yeah. So let's take a look through here and see if there's any questions that are coming up. Certainly at this point, this would be a good place to sort of have questions or comments.
Do you want to ask the participants if they have questions for you guys about their project?
Yes. Who are millennials? That's a question. Who are millennials? So there are different definitions. In this case, Shah edX define millennials as 20 to 35-year-olds. Somewhat Felipe here is it's a broad range. It's usually a little bit narrower than that. Millennials were born around 2000. Or were kids, young kids, or at the turn of the millennium. So certainly those. It's usually thought of as, I'd say, 20 to 30-year-olds maybe at this point in time. But I think that giving a wide range for a product like this would be fine.
Yeah, but even going back to the proposal, that was another question I did have too. Right? Why narrow it to just millennials? I would think so much more of the population would really need a tool that could distinguish between fake and real.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. And there may be reasons for thinking about that. Does it link to particular, news sources that they use? Does it link to particular groups that they have affinities for? Does it sort of model itself after a particular, does it model itself after the Daily Show in some fundamental way that's going to be a sort of demographic that sort of focuses, or is it something that would just be more generally useful? So it is important to think about, if you're going to narrow that, why you should narrow that, and if not, why not keep it broad?
Right.
Right, there was a question there.
Yeah.
Why would this product be particularly appropriate for a specific age group? It isn't clear. I think one could make good arguments that there were reasons to do that, that there would be places that there should be. There may be things about the way you construct it that would be. In other cases, there may not be, it may not be useful. Why not get as many people as you can?
It might even have been an attempt to just narrow the scope, and it might have just something that can be an easier way to launch a product by just narrowing the scope.
Yeah. Thanks for having the question.
No problem.
Lorenzo's asking for a quick review of his. I'll on that one. I will unfortunately have to decline. We do, while it looks like I'm doing these live on air for the first time, I may not be quite as rehearsed as I could be, but we actually did spend a fair bit of time looking through these last night and trying to make sure that we were able to give substantive feedback. So I don't want to do it just a cursory one here live on the air. I'm afraid I won't do it justice.
Yeah, but Lorenzo, I'll definitely. I did see your proposal, and I will provide some comments before we close out the course.
Thanks. Other questions or comments? Are any of the folks? Shot, very true. Narrowing the population. Thanks for participating there. Were any of the other? Alexis was on. Damien was on. Alexis had a problem with sound. So unfortunately she couldn't hear us, presumably. I don't know if any of the people who, thanks Lorenzo. I don't know if any of the people who we gave feedback to have any sorts of sets of responses or thoughts on.
And I was going to add too, if anyone did have any audio problems, they'll still be able to, this will be archived, so you should be able to refer back to it.
Oh, I should realize that in fact we're appearing. Your comments are appearing in the future. There's a delay of our voices, so we're actually seeing your comments in real time, but you're seeing our voices in delay. So, we'll give you a couple minutes here to respond and see if there's any questions that you have, or any of the folks who had their reviews want to offer further insights. I will say that I was very happy with this sort of crop of submissions we had, and I apologize for not being able to review all of them. It was a really good list of projects. I'm really happy to sort of see people sort of thinking in so many different ways. I really like to see the diversity of both the audiences that we're serving. I mean, we just saw here, we saw a web-based note-taking app for presumably people who are maybe older adults and who are taking courses online. We saw the AR app, which was for secondary school students, as I recall. We saw Mindful, which was for elementary school students. So we see this, which is for millennials. So it's really great to see different audiences. We saw different subject areas. I really like that diversity of ideas being circulated in here.
And just so creative. When I was talking about this yesterday, I'm just very, very impressed by the creativity that everyone showed and then supported their pitches. I was just thought everyone just did such good quality work.
Yep. ShahEdX suggests maybe if it was good to start with news coming from local newspapers. I think that's a really interesting idea. I think starting local is actually often a good way to think about growing some ideas like this. There's not, in some ways, there's not enough attention paid to some of those local news sources and local politics. So and it's easier to verify. It's a smaller community.
Right.
I think it's a really interesting idea, and that's something I think that would make it somewhat unique as well. It's not something that I've heard about before, so that's an interesting twist.
Yeah, and then you have a local community forum. If you are able to test that out locally, where you don't have those anonymous comments, then I mean you have who's participating, and you'll be able to control more of what's being said, control more of the content.
Good. What else can I say here?
Now, if we do have some more time, I was wondering if, since this is the end of this EdTech series, if you had any reflections on the series as a whole.
Yeah, well, so I the reason why I started this series was, and this was several years ago now. I think I must have started thinking about this probably at least 3 years ago, and it was when MOOCs were really just sort of taking off, and there was a lot of hype. Although most of the MOOCs, and they still are now, although it's expanded somewhat, but most of the MOOCs were in science and technology. They were sort of auto-graded, easily scalable, and I wanted to sort of, this was my own design experiment to say, like, okay, if I want to learn about this medium, it seems like there's a future in this medium. It may not be what I'm seeing right now, but if there's a future here, the way for me to learn about this is to make stuff and try it out. And so I do think that my own idea behind this is what I actually try to encourage in this course in particular. It may not be that you ultimately become a developer of educational technology, but one of the ways to learn about it, to learn about what it can be used for, as a teacher or as a researcher, as a developer, as a designer, is to make things and try them out. And whether that's making prototypes and trying them out, or making full things like we did here, that it's my way of doing that. So that was my idea, why I got these started. I wanted to sort of be able to experiment with it. I wanted to see, could we do some things that are outside the sort of auto-graded problem sets, and could we make sort of successful communities? That was a big goal of ours, was to sort of say, hey, can we help groups of people work together online in ways? The edX forums are not great, and so we've done this experiment with our own sets of forums here to be able to really that's the locus of activity for this course, is in those forums.
And I think that's the feedback we get a lot, is how much people appreciate these forums and how beneficial that has been. Yeah,
and so I feel like there's still a lot to learn in front of us, and me as an individual as well as us as a field, and so I look forward to that. I certainly think I hope we've made some progress in sort of helping people think about ways they can use MOOCs and use educational technology, and I feel like it's been a successful run, and I hope we get to do more, because I think we've learned a lot. Some of the folks, including you, have been working on a new series of courses that with Justin Reich, using new technologies, new forums, new kinds of video formats, and so I think each iteration we're able to learn more and to think about what we can do well.
Yeah, and it's the enthusiasm has been wonderful from the learners. I mean, this is content that people want, and it's been a lot of fun to work on these projects. Thank you.
Thanks. And so Damien, no questions right now, but thanks for the review. Felipe Lima da Cunha sort of talked about, in Germany at least, the big news groups are introducing fact-checking groups for their news reports, as more and more news are online and social media. So there's interesting ways that this might start spreading. All right, well, I'll pause here for another minute or two before we wrap things up. If there's any other burning questions that people have, I really appreciate everybody who attended today, and everybody who's going to wind up watching this online later as well. So thanks for participating, even in those ways.
Yeah, and I'll just echo the same. It's been great to see everybody's work in the forums, and again, just seeing everybody's participation and enthusiasm. Really enjoyed this course and learning with you.
Great. With that, I think we can bring things to a close if I remember how to do that part. But thanks to all of you for participating. We really appreciate your participation today, your participation in the event, in the forums, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future in other kinds of educational technology courses that we run, and do fill out those surveys. It's something that we're really interested in is what comes next, and we can learn a lot from what you tell us about how things went this time.
Great. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.